Hey there, Krow.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Not too bad.
Oh,
If,
great. Oh, you're outside enjoying the weather.
yes. That's what I was gonna say. Change of venue. I'm in the backyard where
Yep,
it's
yep,
not 87 degrees in the house.
yeah. Well, I'm still broadcasting from an undisclosed location in my library. So,
uh, how are you guys handling the heat out there?
we're doing okay. We have a couple of window unit air conditioners that we had originally bought for my grandparents in Oklahoma, and then when we put central air in the house during the renovations, we brought them up here.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing okay.
Ah,
They
made
keep
in
they
the
keep the edge off just barely. If we have to replace any one of them, we're gonna double check the capacity and stuff and make sure we get one that's correct. But these are adequate.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that BTUs also work the same way for air conditioning as it does for heating. If you're
Yes.
undersized, you're just wasting electricity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
because if it's a good one, like actually my neighbor does have a good AC unit. It cycles probably about every 45 minutes, shuts off for
Oh.
like maybe 20 or
Huh.
30 minutes. So I was like, damn, his house must be insulated really good. And he
Okay.
had everything sized, but the whole house was renovated. Well,
Sure.
you can tell it was renovated. Not like my house, which still has 2x4 outer walls.
So you want to start with a prayer, Crow? I did it last time. It's maybe your turn this time.
Yeah, I may even remember my piece of paper.
Awesome.
For the Father of the people is with the creation by the Father. With the knowledge in the heaven is with the holy name of the Father. For the knowledge of the truth is for the people of the Father. For the kingdom of the Father is in the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of the Spirit is for the unity with the Father. For the freedom of the actions is with the knowledge by the truth. For the protection of the earth is for the life of the people. For the knowledge of the Father is with the protection for the people. For the truth of the people is for the path unto heaven. For the teaching of the people is with the truth of the people. For the knowledge of the day is for the production, working, and learning skills of the people. For the wrongs, sins against the knowledge is with the actions of the people. For the sins, temptations of the flesh of the people is for the wrongs against our neighbors, for the knowledge of the people in the forgiveness of those wrong decisions. For the people of the debts are of the responsibility in the truth. For the people of the awareness are for the forgiving with the truth, for the knowledge of the people leader is with the teaching with the truth. For the evil of the people is with the lack of the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of the truth is for the freedom of the people against the evil of the darkness. For the people are with this agreement.
Okay, thank you. And
And
did you have a specific line that you wanted to comment on of that prayer?
I like this prayer starts out by dealing with universal levels and truths down to the system, to the earth, and then finally the individual person. And that's pretty much how the whole thing is put together. And I was thinking something while I was reading the first part of this. And what I was thinking is that it's amusing to me sometimes that people think, believe that there is good energy and there is evil energy. The truth of the situation is that there is neither good energy or bad energy. There's just God's energy. And what brought it to mind is the word mercy. People don't understand what that word mercy means either when it comes to universal truths. They think mercy is forgiveness or sparing somebody something. That's not at all what is meant by mercy when it comes to universal truths. Because the Father has given us free will, that basically opens the door wide open for all kinds of sin and evil to take place. I'm surprised nobody has figured this out yet. It's like, without free will, there would be no sin and evil. There'd be no sin and evil if it wasn't for free will. But there would be no children of time and space if there wasn't any free will. So we wouldn't even exist without free will. So free will is everything. And what God has done so that people, the children of time and space, have the opportunity to correct their mistakes, that is what mercy is for. It's basically God not acknowledging you because of what you've done. It's God keeps acknowledging your existence, because the second God denies your existence, you cease to exist. That's it. You just stop existing. It's God's universe. He's the one that's upholding it. So you might not like it, but that's the reality. But you have free will to choose whether or not you want to follow this path or that path. So, figure it out. And actually, I made a tweet today that was related to that. It was hilarious. I was like, all things evil stem directly from free will. And free will comes from God. So in reality, everything really is God's fault. But I like free will, so God gets a pass. Yeah, I can be a little bit funny, but also I love saying stuff like that because it just freaks out the zealots that just hold on to their belief. I mean, I keep saying it. It's like our ancestors did a really, really good job at bringing these messages to us in the future through like the primitive means that they had access to, stories, language, and what have you. But that is how our ancestors thought about spiritual things. We are expected to evolve our knowledge of spiritual things. I mean, it's like everything else around us evolves, ideas, nature, the universe, and yet spirituality is supposed to stagnate for 2,000 years or 5,000 years or whatever you want to put a number to. I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me whatsoever. It makes more sense that our spirituality should evolve alongside of everything else. And the only way that it's going to evolve is if we talk more about these things and we have discussions and we explore ideas It's, you know, and figure out, you know, what is truth and what is not truth. How do you know what's truth and how do you know what's not truth? I mean, especially for people that want to keep quoting ancient texts to try
Yeah.
to back up their point. So it's like, so where is truth? Truth, the truth is going to come through in a logical and scientific, and sometimes a scientific way, but mostly through logic and reason is how you get to the truth. And this is why we need to talk things through and not get emotional about things and not attach ourselves to these old teachings, because the old teachings are just a starting point. It's like everything else in life. It's like, you know, you start with duck is a duck in grade 1, but that's not the only book that you're ever going to read your whole life. I mean, if it is, well, you know, that's pretty sad, actually. You know, you move on to other books, you expand yourself, you expand your knowledge, and then hopefully somewhere along the line you start to gain wisdom by, you know, go ahead.
I thought we had, I remember we talked about in one of our discussions, these zealots and people like that they've made their opinion part of their identity. Is the best way I can explain it, because I've dealt with a number of these people. I've turned myself inside out trying to understand them, where they're coming from, how they're put together, and why they're acting the way they are, interacting, and so on. And that's what I can come up with. It's, you know, not very deep exactly, but it's like they're stuck on one channel or one reality, especially the people who are into doublethink. I see people who are saying that I'll give you an example of a person I've been interacting with recently. He's saying the government is corrupt to the point of being a tool of the Illuminati, and then he also says, or he and people like him, like we must follow all COVID protocols and restrictions because the government suddenly has our best interest at heart.
That's an oxymoron.
So I'm like, pick a timeline, sir.
Yeah.
Or pick a reality. Pick a I don't know what, but
pick a reality.
This obvious doublethink is odd to me.
And there's a lot of that going around where people are double thinking. I mean, personally, I'm just trying to stay under the radar until it's not until things are ready, and not so much that it's not necessary, but when it's time to be called to action. And action doesn't necessarily mean grabbing a weapon and jumping onto the battlefield. Call to action could mean jumping, well, most likely is going to mean jumping on the computer and getting shit organized and being where I need to be at that time. So that's probably what call to action is going to be. No doubt helping people recover emotionally and spiritually from what is inevitable and what is coming. And what is coming, it is inevitable. They've made it inevitable now. And so, I mean, and they're being blatant about it. Holy shit. The BC Governor General released a statement. I couldn't even fucking believe this shit. What the hell was, oh, it's on the phone. Fuck. Anyways, the statement is basically the statement said that the vaccines are done. They're not going to be given, they're not going to have any, there's not going to be any forced vaccine. There's not going to be any vaccine passport. That's done. That phase is done. Now the trials begin. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Basically, they're admitting that they have jabbed enough people that now the real experiment can begin. I mean, I'm not sure if he meant it to sound like that, but that's exactly what it sounds like.
This is what the Lieutenant Governor of BC,
Yes.
or not the Premier,
the governor
Governor
or
General
lieutenant.
is Canada. Lieutenant Governor is of a province.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor of BC.
It's the Queen's I did the thing for my citizenship. We went through the lieutenant. I'll say it in British. The Lieutenant Governor is the Queen's representative in a province. The Premier is supposed to be the people's representative. The Governor General of Canada is the Queen's representative in Canada, is basically her proxy for Canada. The Prime Minister is the head of government of Canada.
Yeah. And I used to think that was a good system because it kept politicians in check. And on paper, it's a brilliant system. In reality, we have a queen that has no power. And a royal family that has no power. So to me, it's like all of this stuff has become pointless, and it's time for us to adopt a more American approach to democracy. I think that's
Republic of Canada, baby. Coming 25.
I don't see any way forward except as a republic, because the whole monarchy thing, that is completely fallen apart. People don't understand. Like, the royal seal was removed from the gate at Windsor. People don't even understand the significance of that. It was removed. That means their power has been removed. Where it's been moved to, nobody fucking knows. I've tried to look. I've tried to look. I really did, buddy. I wanted to find out where that seal went. The official story, which is absolute bullshit, says that it was taken down for repair. It's like, if you understand seals and seagulls, it would not be taken down for repair. Well, if it was taken down for repair, there would be another seagull put in its place as
they'd have like a spare
holder.
or something, wouldn't they? Or some kind of something, if not a replica of the original, then some alternate thing that would be there.
Yeah, more likely a replica of the original. It is fine, so long as it is stated that it's a replica. So it becomes a placeholder. And a placeholder is fine, but placeholders only hold for so long. This seal has been off the gate, as far as I know, since before Trump made his trip. No. It was removed right around the time that Trump made his trip to Windsor, to the royal family.
And I think I know where you're going with the idea of the seal, because when you craft one of those, and anybody who's looked at any kind of official thing like the original one and has gone in person to see it, like things in Washington, D.C. or Ottawa, or stuff on the legislature building in Regina, there's not just physical craftsmanship that goes with. There's a sort of energy that gets put into those things.
Yes.
Is I think what you're trying to make, you're alluding to.
That is exactly it.
Yeah.
And that's all magic. And back to where I started, there is no such thing as good magic or bad magic, white magic, black magic. Magic, all magic is a tool. It's how you use that tool. And like every tool in a toolbox, you misuse that tool, it's going to hurt you. And this is why it's good to understand magic, because if you misuse these magical tools that have been given to us by the Eternal Father, I mean, you can hurt yourself with a flathead screwdriver really, really bad if you don't know how to use it properly. Like, I have seen people stab themselves in their leg with a flathead screwdriver because they've slipped off the screw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the first things we were taught in shop. Keep your body to the opposite the sharp edge of your tool, or the working. The other thing that that a shop teacher liked to call it was the working side or the working edge of the tool.
Yes.
Keep your body to the opposite side, always. If you don't, bad things are going to happen. You push the knife away from you. You bring it towards you. And I've seen that shit done too. God, I was helping with, I was volunteering for Habitat with Humanity. And this guy, he was there, him and his wife. He seemed cool. I mean, he was obviously a little slow, but, you know, I don't judge. He seemed like, you know, but he still seemed cool. So I'm outside and I'm putting shingles around one of the windows because they had a new window put in. They needed shingles put in around it. So I'm putting shingles around it, and I'm up on this ladder. Buddy's inside the house, and I hand him shingles and a knife, and I'm just like, you know, just you know, carve what I mark on here, carve it off for me. Because I figured, you know, he's inside, he's on a stable platform. So he should be able to carve that a lot better, as opposed to me being 16 feet up in the air and balancing on a ladder trying to carve shingles. So I figured, you know, this might be the safest approach. I was wrong. I can admit that I'm wrong. But he stabbed himself in the leg.
Oof.
And his wife comes in, and she sees, I mean, she came in pretty much like 2 seconds or like 5 seconds after he stabbed himself. And he's sitting there watching himself bleed out his leg. And I'm like, buddy, you cut yourself. He's like, oh, I did. Like I said, he was a little slow. Wife comes in, sees what has happened, looks at me, and says, you gave him a knife. And I'm like, I thought I was dealing with a grown-ass man in his 30s. Yeah, apparently not. What is it with these women that just want to marry children? I mean, these man-child. A friend of mine went through something. I'm not going to say her name. I don't think she'll be mad that I tell this story. But so, because she understands that people need to learn from things as well. And yeah, she hooked up with the guy. I mean, he had all the appearances of being a responsible human being. And, you know, so she fell in love with him. Well, after he figured he had his hooks and had her in a place to where she had to rely on him, that's when the real man showed up. And not real man, but real personality showed up. He ended up, he was an alcoholic, but he was able to quit. So he had decided to stop drinking sometime when they met. And he was able to keep up that facade for a year. And same thing with the drugs. And then certain situations happened in their life. And that's when his real personality came out, and she found out he was just a selfish drunk. He's just a selfish man. And so, and just to like, and she still being a good person that she is, was still like, you know, going to help him through this situation, right? Recovery, get him into a recovery program and what have you. So, you know, good heart. But then she ended up getting a call that, you know, and so she was good. No, she got a call that something had happened to him. Anyway, she got a call and she ended up leaving her house and going to get him. But before she went and got him, she stopped at a mutual friend's house for a little bit. And, you know, they were like, you know, he was like, well, I'll come with you to go get him. And so, but he took about 10, 15 minutes to pull the shit together so that they can get in the car and carry on with the travel. This is where shit gets weird, and she fucking knows it too. In that 10, 15 minute span, Buddy had gone off the road about maybe a kilometer or so up the road from where she was at. He was actually on his way there. And he was drunk. And so as they drove to go get him where he was, which was supposed to be another half hour up the or so up the road, they come across a scene on the road. And there were people there and an empty car in the ditch. And she recognized the car right away, that it was his. And what she also noticed was how the black marks went for an awfully long ways on the wrong side of the road for the direction that he was traveling. And Buddy was nowhere to be seen. So everybody's looking up and down the road for Buddy, right? Did he get thrown from the car in the accident? Did he get out and was delirious and walked into the woods, get eaten by a bear? What have you? And my friend, she made, and she prayed. And she prayed the right prayer. She was like, Father, please let us find him. She didn't ask for him to be alive, didn't ask for him to be okay. She asked for a very practical request from the Father. Took less than a minute for the Father to respond to that very practical request, by the way. And some young kids were driving, had came from the direction that car was traveling from. And they said that they had seen the guy from the car accident. They weren't going to stop, but then they felt compelled that they should stop and say something. So then they told my friend that, you know, oh yeah, we've seen him get into a car. He's like, so he's okay and he's gone somewhere. Well, they found out later that he had made it to another liquor store. Wow. So that's what she was dealing with. But once she left the accident scene, got back home, and she actually noticed how much time it took to get from where that accident scene to her friend's house, mutual friend. She figured that the time would have been perfect, that if she had not have stopped in to that friend's house, she would have been in that exact same spot when he lost control of the car. And she was just like, you know, she just like felt like she should stop in and visit her friend and see, you know, if he knew anything. And I was just like, wow. I was like, you're being taken care of. She's read the Urantia book, by the way. Not all of it, and but a good chunk of it.
I like the part you said about keeping the prayers practical, and we can talk about that sometime. I just want to interject. You talked about the guy being on the way to the liquor store. Do they have drive-through liquor stores in Canada? They do in the United States.
I think in some of the
There's
bigger
this
cities.
there's this one in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's set up like it made to look like a barn. You drive in through the barn door, and it's the cases of liquor are set. You know, it's like a barn. You know, a stacked warehouse or whatever. And you drive in there, and you get your liquor, and you drive. So yeah, drive-through liquor stores are a thing.
I think that's really illegal in Canada. Oh shit. I mean, it's only been in my lifetime in New Brunswick that they started selling alcohol in designated corner stores. Before,
Okay.
you could only buy it at the liquor corporation store, which was government ran. And then somewheres in my lifetime, they decided that, oh, well, we're going to set up liquor shops in these small gas stations in these rural parts of the province. And then they came up with the new rule. I think like there had to be like X number of kilometers between liquor establishments. Because I was just like, wow.
Yeah. We went to Mississippi one time, and I think the only business that didn't have a liquor store in it were the churches. We went into every gas station or anywhere that sold anything, and it sold liquor.
Yes. Oh God. Oh.
Anyway.
It used to be at one time, you'll love this. At one time in history, if liquor bottles used to have the king's seal placed on it. You'll love this. It would be considered treason if you were caught drinking liquor from a bottle with another king's seal on it, and you're not a citizen of that kingdom. Wow. Treason. Wow. Now you understand why they didn't like pirates. Because pirates were making their own liquor. This is where rum came from. Rum has got to be it's got to be like the most basic way to make liquor using sugar cane. And it's just like, and I mean, I don't even know why we like it, because it's like, I mean, I do. I mean, of all the alcohol that I have tasted, I do actually like rum, but I also understand it's probably the raunchiest drink ever created by man. Like, rum is nasty. And when they like tell you that, oh, it's smooth, yeah, no, it never is smooth. It's still got that raunchy edge to it. It's just a less raunchy edge. I mean, everybody's used to Captain Morgan. That's like Kool-Aid compared to real rum. I mean, you drink real rum, go to Jamaica, drink real rum, you'd be lucky if you don't throw up on the first drink. I've never been to Jamaica, but I've had somebody give me Jamaican rum. It can be a little bit disgusting, but it'll fuck you up real fast. Like, real fast. But maybe it's just me. I'm a cheap drunk. I get high easily. I'm happy. I'm a cheap high.
Okay, so practical prayers. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Practical prayers are practical. Don't ask for shit from God if you can do it through your own magic. Seriously. If you can do it through your own magic, don't bother asking God about it. Why are you bugging the creator of the universe about this shit? Have a conversation about it. I mean, you'd be like, well, I'm planning on this and I'm planning on that, but don't have to ask for God for it. I mean, you know, if you're lucky, God will give you the instruction manual to do it yourself. Nothing pleases the Father more than when you can just as easily do the same shit that he can.
Yes.
Nothing pleases him more. I mean, think about it. You're a parent. I mean, how would you feel if your adult child was constantly coming to you for shit?
Mm-hmm.
After a while, you'd be like, get a fucking job, why don't you? And, you know, it's going to annoy the shit out of you. Wait, the Eternal Father doesn't get annoyed? Trust me. If you get annoyed, the Eternal Father gets annoyed. We share all the same emotions with the Father, and he probably has a more, I mean, automatically, I mean, you're safe to assume that whatever emotions we have, God has the exact same emotions, plus more.
Plus more we don't know about.
Yeah, well, we don't know about. What they are, I don't know. I ain't got the imagination for that shit. I mean, you know, but I'm sure there is.
Just imagine the emotions you discovered between, say, age 5 and now.
Mm,
When you were
yes.
5 to 10 years old, you had a range of, you know, happy, sad, jealous, angry, stuff like that. And then you got more emotions and more subtle emotions and combinations of them and so on. So watch the movie Inside Out.
I've heard of that movie. I've heard of that movie.
Watch it. I think you'd like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you'd like it or not, but you'd understand. It's an interesting analogy. It's set from the perspective of the 5 major emotions of this 8 or 10-year-old girl when she's moved from Minnesota to California.
Mm.
And it's, yeah, like 3 of the emotions get lost, or 2 of them get lost, and then she's left with they're what, joy and sadness or something, and then she has fear, anger, and disgust, and joy and sadness get lost, and she's like the one she has to work with her fear, anger, and disgust, and she's in the middle of going through something. So, you know, it's that kind of movie. But I love the way they did it. It's set inside her brain, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of a coming of age type of thing.
No, I think
Disney Pixar thing.
Oh, is it animated?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like animated.
Okay.
Yeah, I like animated shows because there's no limit to your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the fuck you can think of, it can go on the screen. And
yeah,
the
that's
way
why Pixar did animated. Yeah.
And you know, the level of animation that we have today, you know, it's fucking, you know, it's awesome. I mean, it's almost like watching reality.
Yeah.
I mean, watch The Life of Pi. All those animals in that movie, all CGI.
Yeah, we can make anything happen in a, quote, live action movie now.
Yeah, every one of those animals CGI, and you just like, I watched that shit and I was just like, that's fucking amazing. That's all I could think to myself. But I don't get caught up in I try not to get caught up in the emotion of a movie. And every time, this is also MK Ultra, baby. Every time you're watching a movie and you get to a scene that induces an emotion, what I do is I allow the emotion to flow through me. So sometimes I might even cry at a movie, but my mind goes into high alert, like super high alert, because
when a movie triggers an emotion.
Yes, because
okay.
Now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the hook. Yeah, because every time there's an emotion, within 60 seconds of that scene, they're gonna bring in the hook. Yeah, because they get you. You're more open and susceptible to ideas being planted into your subconscious when there is emotion involved. And it doesn't matter what the emotion is, happy, sad, joy, anger, it doesn't matter. As long as it's an emotional response.
That's backwards, but that's the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah. And
So
Joy is not based on Tinkerbell at all. I mean, it's only Disney. They don't know who Tinkerbell is.
yeah.
See what you think of that when you watch the movie and the character of Joy. See if she reminds you of anybody.
Oh, are you kidding? I just got a thought about that movie. I haven't even watched it yet, but first thing that's coming into my mind, or what just echoed through my mind, almost quite loud and quite clear. This is how you destroy the thought adjuster. I shouldn't even say that it was a voice in my head. It's like I said, it never talks. The voice, or what is perceived as a voice, is the emotional attachment to the visual that went through my head at light speed.
Okay.
So as that traveled through my mind, I got thought adjuster. I could see thought adjuster, and then I could see destruction, or at least possible, or trying an attempt at destruction. And I'm just like, no fucking way. But it doesn't even all come together like that. It's like a little blip that happens in your mind, and you have to interpret it as best as you can. But when when you do interpret it properly, there's this little hint of joy that comes in. And that's how I know that I've hit the nail on the head. But this is from like years and years of paying attention to my own mind, and so you learn. And
there's
no.
So let me see if I can. No, go ahead. Sorry.
There's no user manual for how your mind works, and really, you're only given one instruction. If there is a user manual, it's only going to have one instruction: pay the fuck attention to yourself. That is the only instruction you're going to find in the universal user's manual for the human mind. And that goes for all minds. Pay the fuck attention. Situational awareness. And that means pay attention to everything, your emotions, everything. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're talking about you get the flash of thought or the image, and that's the transmission, and then if you hear a voice attached to it, that's some other part of your mind or consciousness interpreting it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. The only time I've actually heard like real voice is when the guardian angel is keeping me from dying. And that and the difference because it's external, but it penetrates right through your mind. You hear it all around you at first, but then it permeates through your mind, and then you can decide to act on it. You're still in control. I mean, I didn't have to steer left. I didn't have to turn right. I didn't have to brake hard and then let up and hit the gas to avoid those two sandwiching between two trucks. I could have just been, oh, fuck. And then, that would have been the end of it. But as soon as I started hearing the instructions, and I'm just like, my mind within like, a nanosecond decided we're just going to follow the instructions because we don't know what the fuck to do. I mean, I recognize that I'm screwed. And if somebody's hollering instructions in my ear, it's like, well, I don't know what to do. So I'm just following these instructions. Good enough. Boom. In the Silesian prophecies, it actually describes that much better. When Buddy was like fight or flight in the mountains, and all he heard in his whispered, he called it a whisper, but all he heard in his ear: go left, go right, duck here, and the soldiers went right by him.
So I wanted to ask for some clarification, if you wanted. I mentioned the movie Inside Out, and then you said something about destroying the thought adjuster. So I guess I wondered what you mean by that.
Well, they can't destroy the thought adjusters. They know that. The enemy knows that. They've already tried.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they thought that they could keep the thought adjusters from coming here when all the communications went down. It was sort of a bittersweet moment, a catch-22. They wanted all the lines of communication to this planet down and other planets that rebelled so that they could take full control. And they thought that would stop the thought adjusters from coming, and then they would have complete control over the free-willed beings that were created on that planet. I don't want to say humans or people because we don't know what forms of life were on those other 35 planets. So I'll just say being, free-willed beings. So they thought that they would
be... The will creatures is what the book says about, yeah.
Yeah, intelligent willed creatures. And so they rejoiced when the lines were cut, but then the thought adjusters did not stop coming.
Yeah, the problem I instantly see with that is the thought adjusters are right on the Father's circuit, and there's no messing with that thing.
No, they ride the gravity. Yeah, I mean, gravity is their vehicle. They jump into a gravity stream and they can be anywhere they want to fucking be at, in a very, very short period of time. I think your Urantia book told us that it takes like less than 5 minutes for a thought adjuster to travel from our universal capital center, like for the universe, not our system, but for the universe of this local universe, less than 5 minutes to make it to Earth.
Okay.
How fucking fast is that? That's almost, I mean, that's practically instantaneous when you think about the distances involved. And we've both seen that artist's interpretation that looked like an egg of the whole of God's creation, where it had the billion worlds orbiting paradise, and then the 7 galactic capitals, and then all the smaller universes. It's just crazy huge. It's just huge compared to. I mean, we're bacteria. We're if to compare our size to the whole of the universe, we're barely a smear on a bacteria, a smear of bacteria on a piece of glass that you put under a microscope.
We're probably one atom of a bacteria, or one tiny thing that makes the bacterium up or something. It's like,
yes,
yeah.
I mean, our local universe would be the size of the bacteria itself,
right?
And we're just pieces of it. And
we if it were the size of a bacteria, we would be smaller compared to that than a bacterium is compared to us, or some crazy thing like that.
And shit is still more microscopic than us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're looking through like fucking powered microscopes to see shit. And we're also looking at shit through a hadron collider. And
take a look at an atom, and then take a look at what they've figured out that makes up an atom, and the relative size of all that. I know.
And it's just like, yeah, their shit's still smaller than us. And then if there are intelligent willed creatures down at the level of an atom, there would still be shit smaller than them. So, I mean, that alone should blow your fucking mind. We have drilled down into reality. Like, we have gone beyond the Planck length and drilled down into reality. And we have no fucking idea what we're looking at. That's why I like to say, the quantum realm, that's God's playground. That's where all the magic is. I mean, That's, I mean, when you're dealing with the quantum level, you're dealing with God. And this is why they can't nail anything down. They can only guess at shit. Because in God's reality, you got to understand, God has created everything. Everything. And that means all the failed universes too. We exist in a version of God's creation that worked and is working well. But what if there were other creations that God experimented with that did not work out as well? They still exist. They still exist because God exists. So, yeah, let that marinate for a minute. All that shit is there. But if you make it as a phenylator, you're going to see all that. Because that's one of the things, is that you've got to accept everything about reality in order to abode with the Eternal Father. And to, you know, you're going to move through the Eternal Father. And get shit out the other side. I mean, are you going to survive the digestion process? I mean, I know it's a primitive way to describe it, but that's essentially what it is basically God digests your spirit. If you are one with God, you're just going to pass through like nothing. And you're a phenylator, because now you have shown the universes of universes that you are the same as God, because you've accepted everything of the Father. You've accepted his plan for the universe. That's why this universe is the universe that has survived reality, because everybody within this universe agrees with the Father's plan. That's how the universe is held up. This is why evil can never win. Evil will always carry the seeds of its own destruction. People are really worried that evil is winning on this planet. Sometimes I worry about it, but most of the time I figure out that it's not even my fear. It's theirs. I'm just being affected by it. But evil can't win. And I know this because in order for evil to survive, it has to consume itself, because it doesn't want to agree with the universe and govern its behavior according to universal law. Evil tries to get outside of universal law. That's what evil tries to do. And if you step outside of universal law, you still need energy. Life feeds on life. That's just the way it is. Except when you do it God's way, you're always moving forward and constructing something. Even when there is destruction, there's always construction as well. But, you know, and this is the purpose that evil is supposed to fill, is that evil is the destructive force. So that construction will have a chance to be explored and experienced. It's something you have to have destruction as well, so that you can keep building and moving forward. I'm not sure if I'm making this clear enough, but evil has to exist in order for that. But evil cannot exist as the only philosophy in the universe, because it requires, by nature, it requires destruction for its own existence. God does not require destruction for his existence. God requires creation. Destruction is just an opportunity to recreate.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically how God sees it. And Michael has like, he's taken it to its limit. Like, Michael is using the opportunity of this rebellion in Saturnalia to really, like, build or just to show, so that it can be seen for everywheres in all the universes of all time, that evil, even when you allow it to run its course, will always consume its own tail. Always. Because what has gone on in Saturnalia, this is the longest any such rebellion has ever lasted in the history of all the universes. I mean, the Urantia book hints at it, that it's the longest that this grand universe, number 7, has endured. I'm going to guess that it's probably maybe the longest that any of the universes have ever endured. So out of the possible 125,000 universes in this grand universe, this is the longest rebellion that has ever lasted. Wow. It's like Michael really, really, really wanted to just kind of see this thing play out. But now the thing has played out long enough, because now it has become cylindrical. It's the Ouroboros, that the snake eating its tail. It's played out because we've already gone through the cycles, and the universes now see that it's just going in a cycle, is all it is. The universe got to watch how evil behaved before the first cataclysm, 52,000 years ago. And then they watched evil get destroyed, a chance for goodness to come, and righteousness, and then have evil overtake that again and still consume itself and destroy itself. Mm-hmm. And now, and then the final nail was put in the coffin during the Younger Dryas period, 11,500 years ago. And then we've watched mankind have a chance to, like, bring righteousness back to the world. Melchizedek made his visit, really tried hard, and then have evil overcome that and drag people down again into ignorance. And then we watched it happen again after the Son of Man cleaned up this planet. All evil creatures were removed from this planet that did not belong here. The ones that this was basically their home, which there were a lot of them, but this was basically their home, like Caligassia and his ilk. Where else were they going to go? This is their home too. So the Son of Man didn't remove them because they're home. But the ones the interlopers that showed up, see you later, guys, you're off the planet. So they all got dragged off the planet, including the ones that came before and after the flood. And so that went on for like 1,000+ years. And then some guy named John D opens up a portal, and a whole bunch more of these fuckers come through, some 500 of them. And so now the whole thing starts all over again. We were on our way to a good place, people. If John D had not have opened that pit. I mean, kings and kingdoms were like really seriously, like they were like, they wanted to build schools, universities. They wanted the people to be trained so that, you know, they could build things and they could have things in their kingdom. Because believe it or not, kings and queens like having nice stuff. They only get nice stuff if they have citizens that know how to build nice stuff. And you got to have a functioning agricultural system in order to have people that can build you nice stuff. They understood that. A lot of effort went into agriculture at about that time. The first real constitution, what was it? The Magna Carta? Yeah, the Magna Carta.
Magna Carta in 10 something. When was it? 11, 15, 15? Let me look it up.
Yeah, so that was created.
You got to look everything up.
So that was created, and so that document right there automatically tells you, because kings voluntarily decided to adopt that document.
1215.
So
1215.
1215. So that just goes to show you where we were in 1215. And then by the 1420s, D opens up this fucking pit into another dimension, and out pop these fucking beings that we would describe as demons, archons, you know, God, whatever. They were just, they were beings that did not have our best interest in mind. They just seen this planet as a smorgasbord. So while the original fallen that came before the flood, they came with good intentions. They had all good intentions. They wanted to teach humanity. They were going to find a way to spirit fuse humanity. Lucifer promised all of this. Oh yeah, we're going to find a way. Humanity is still going to evolve spiritually. They had this grand plan for humanity. It was going to be beautiful. And they built great cities. They were trying to transform the earth to be more like their fifth dimensional worlds. But fifth dimensional technology does not bode well with fourth dimension. And bad things happened. I mean, not for a long, long time. And, you know, so they had all this wonderful technology powered from fifth dimensional sources. And they were allowed to do that. And it was all perfectly balanced, perfectly safe. Everybody was living great. But humanity kept on backsliding. They got frustrated. 150,000 years of this shit. They get humanity to a certain point, and then they'd be like, okay, maybe now we can stop teaching them. They can take the ball and they can run with it. The morphogenic fields don't work that way. They didn't understand this. So humanity would backslide, back into barbarism, back into wars, because there were no lessons that could stick were taught, because these people didn't understand morphogenic fields. Mankind has to do the same thing. Like back in that time, the morphogenic fields was mostly empty. It's like programming a computer. You got to start out with the basics, and then you just keep doing the same thing over and over again for generations after generation after generation for like 50 or 60,000 years. And it's like, okay, now let's move on to the next thing. Let's move on to fire. So they start moving on to fire. And then as things progress, the programming of the morphogenic field becomes easier and easier, because now the morphogenic field has been able to set itself up so that its various parts can be stored properly and accessed properly according to how the willed creatures of that planet operate in their thinking. So So now things are getting organized. This was supposed to take place over like a 1,000,000-year period.
Yeah, it's like formatting a hard drive, or you buy a hard drive, you have to mount it and you have to format it for Mac or PC or whatever, unless it already is. But at the factory, it has to be, because it's just this magnetic material. You have to do whatever you do to it to align the domains or whatever it is.
Just to align the sectors, set up the sectors. And the reason for formatting is so that you can create the sectors, so that you're setting up a way for the computer to recognize memory allocation. It's basically what the morphogenic field is doing at that time. It's like, because you got to remember, once the thought adjuster showed up, that created a whole new branch in the morphogenic field. Brand new branch, but it was still attached to all like the instincts and survival thinking of all the species on the planet. But then
new directory,
new directory, yes, had to be formed, and now that directory has to get populated. And so it gets populated with like one of the first things that the twins figured out. That flint can make fire, but it's also great for sharpening and using as a weapon too. So this was a multi-purpose resource that they had found, and they used that. They got help. I mean, they had guardian angels, and the guardian angels were way more attentive in those days because they only had 2 people to take care of, and then eventually a family. So they could, they were on guard. Like not too many wild creatures came near the camp of those first Andadites. They were safe because there were guardian angels everywhere. This also established something in the morphogenic field. You ever wonder why animals get the fuck out of our way when we walk through the forest? No, like there's only a few exceptions for animals that will actually stalk and hunt humans, a bear being one of them. But for the most part, most animals, they just get the fuck out of our way, or they ignore us completely. This is because it's in the morphogenic field that, angels walk with these creatures. And, and the thought adjuster giving off his energy signature, that's just like the animals just don't want anything to do with it because it's strange to them and it's scary. And so they go away. I mean, what echoes through their mind is human, human, human. They don't understand that, it's the energy that we have, the divine energy that's within us, that they just don't want to be around because they don't understand what it is. So if they don't understand it, it scares them, which is also a double-edged sword, because if something is too scared, it's going to lash out at you. But yeah, so that got programmed into the morphogenic field. Flint tools, and then from flint tools to how to structure building. All of this slowly built into the morphogenic fields until we get up to like where we were 500,000 years ago, just getting used to the idea of using fire as a tool. And, expanding the toolbox of fire. I mean, fire was always used just mainly for cooking and staying warm. But then, in Dalmatia, they were teaching humans how to expand that toolbox. It's like fire can do more than just that. Fire can heat water into steam. Fire can melt glass so that you can make containers. Fire can melt steel. And so, metallurgy had to be taught. And so all of that got interrupted and then fast-tracked and didn't quite take in the morphogenic field. And this went on for 150,000 years. And that subsequently, because again, the morphogenic field was also programmed with that shortcut. This is probably why people feel like a shortcut is a good idea. We all want to do shortcuts because, I mean, technically that has been just
when's that directory getting repaired?
Yeah, and that technically was programmed.
We need to repair our file system. I imagine that's going to get done.
No,
sorry, go ahead.
No. File system is what it is. It doesn't get changed. We are what we are, and we move forward.
It's written in stone.
Pretty much, okay. Yeah. The morphogenic fields will not be
write patches. Have to write patches for it.
We write the patches in real time. It's like right now in this point in history, a patch is being written for into the morphogenic field. It's basically and you can, if you look back in the past, you can see the same patches put in the programming as we go. Look at all the extremes that have happened in the past. I mean, nobody wants to drop why doesn't anybody want to drop a nuclear weapon? What is so terrifying about a nuclear weapon? Because the whole world's seen what happened to Hiroshima. That is horrific. That was an instant programmed into our morphogenic field. It took a little while for the cabal to figure it out, but once they did, back in the 60s, they figured it out, and they started planning 9/11 that far back. You don't believe?
So they decided to hijack this process and use those things like that to program us.
Yes, but again, they did it with no understanding of morphogenic fields or even human nature, because that little experiment completely backfired on them. Why do you think they didn't try it again? What, you think that if it worked, that it would have only been the Twin Towers? Are you fucking kidding? They would have done the same thing in fucking China. Why not? Well, let's program them. Problem is that 9/11 didn't work the way they wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the minions, it was all about the money. For the masters, it was all about the energy, is what it was. So, the minions did their job. They planted the thermite explosives in the right spots. Part of me thinks that a lot of those thermite explosives may have been a built-in feature of the building itself. I have reasons to suspect that. I'm not going to go down through the hours of research, but I have where there were articles that I came across, and I was like, and there were things. It was how the steel for the building was treated before it was put in place on the in construction, and how it was treated after with certain chemicals that would be helpful in a thermite base type of bomb. So just shit like that. And so anyways.
So something I wanted to say when you were talking about how Michael let the rebellion run, and he did something about it eventually and kind of took steps to deal with it at certain junctures. But I bet you one of the reasons was so that everybody else could watch it and see what happened and understand that evil is sown with the seeds of its own destruction. And it is to be hoped that this would be like he inoculated the it was an inoculation against evil to this show. One of the purposes of it, I can hope that it was, I don't know if the people who needed to get the message did / would / will or not, but that's something that popped into my head. One of the reasons he let it run. The other was, so that, well, reasons we've talked about. But,
don't forget that there were 2 other rebellions before this one. Michael went and dealt with those rebellions. One was shut down faster than the other. After that, there were whispers that, well, how do we know that their system wouldn't work? Michael shut it down. How do we know? How do we know? I mean, he shut it down before they even got started. What if they're right and he's wrong? Free will creatures can ask questions, That might be a question that was asked. I have no doubt it was a question that was posed. Michael knew this. He could hear them all whispering. He's probably thinking, what the fuck? It's like, seriously? It's like, because, this is why our creator needs a certain amount of trust. He can't show us the end result of bullshit for every little fucking scenario in the universe. At some point, you just got to be like, you know what, Mike? You're right. The left path is way worse than the right path. Sorry, I doubted you. This can only be done so many times before the universe folds in on itself. So this is why we have to have a certain amount of trust in our creator to be like, you know what? Mikey says that's a bad thing. I'm believing Mikey.
And then the other thing I figured was it had, looking at what happened back then, is happening along, and then now with going through COVID, they shut down the thing in the economy. We had, I forget if it was just before or during, it was in 2019, 2020, something like that. We had the Americans had a Dow Jones of like 33. It was like a record, and then it just kept setting records every day or every week. And then they had the lockdowns and all that stuff, and it kind of flatlined the economy. It didn't make it go down very fast, but the minute any of the restrictions eased up at all, the Dow just went back through the freaking roof. So they're patching, they're going to running out of fingers to stick in the dike here.
Oh, they're running out so fast. This is why evil always has the seeds of its own destruction. It is constant. Evil is constantly trying to control reality. You can't control reality. This is why we are told, this is why spiritual wisdom tells us, go with the flow. You ain't in control of shit. You're only in control of yourself. But you ain't in control of anything else. You're only in control of yourself and your immediate surroundings. That's it, period. You have influence outside of yourself and outside of your immediate reality. You can have influence. This is why we write books. This is why we talk. This is why we to influence each other. But we can't control each other. I can't force you to turn around and pick a certain book off the shelf behind you. I can't force you to do that from here. If you were in my immediate vicinity, or I was in your immediate vicinity, I could overpower you and physically force you. So that's a measure of control within my immediate surrounding, but I can't do anything from this distance. And also, since you can carry that into mind, since I can't physically wrestle your mind, I can't force you to think in the way I want you to. I could manipulate you with drugs, maybe. Yeah. And shit like that. But again, that's not even control. That's just manipulation and influence. So to think, for these evil people to think they actually have control over reality, that is their greatest sin and their greatest evil right there. And that is what drives them to inequity and wanting to destroy everything, because they know, some of them even know that they can't win. So they just want to destroy everything and just be like, well, if I can't have it, neither can you. And yeah, so stop thinking that you actually have any control. So you got to ask yourself, where do you want your control coming from? You want it to come from people that have their own interests in mind? Or do you want to take your control influence from the being that created you for a divine purpose? When you break everything down, that really is the choice that's on the table. Divine creator that created you for a divine purpose, or government that has no invested interest in you or your family, and basically your impoverishment benefits them. So, and you can carry that on through to the archons. You want to worship these beings that you are basically dinner? Like, seriously. It's like, this is, again, is why evil creates the seeds of its own destruction. Because if you think helping the archons will keep you off the dinner table, it only means that you might not make it to dinner for many, many, many years. And hell, you might even survive a lifetime without making it on the dinner table. But that's only your lifetime. Once everything starts to, once resources start getting scarce, you'll see how fast they fucking begin to eat each other. They're already doing it right now. I mean, some of these swamp politicians who were naive found out who their friends were when they needed their fix. Because I've got all the ice cream. I've got warehouses full of ice cream, but it's mine. And if you want some of my ice cream, you got to be my friend. If you don't think that was the message that Nancy Pelosi was sending out with that fucking ice cream drawer, think again. There's only two options on the table for that one. That was either really sick comms, which I think it was, or she is such a dolt that you would wonder how the fuck she's able to even put her fucking pants on in the morning. And I don't think Nancy Pelosi's a dolt. I mean, you cannot be in Washington for as long as she has been and be a dolt. She would have been consumed decades ago. No. That woman understands power, is what that woman understands. And she had power at that moment in time, and she was wielding it. Unfortunately, what they all found out in the end, that the warehouse full of the fix were expired EpiPens. Expired EpiPens, when exposed to oxygen over a period of time, adrenochromonize, and it becomes a synthetic version of the real fix that these people were looking for. It sustained them through the storm that Trump rained down on them for 3 years. I don't count the first year, because I believe that him and Milana spent a lot of time getting schooled about what's really going on. And I believe that Melania was not refused to participate. This is why there was like a reported schism between the two of them, between Trump and Melania. And the schism was real, but people didn't know. But people all thought, oh no, she's tired of the orange man. No. That schism occurred because she was unwilling to participate in the plan if the safety of her children was not guaranteed by the alliance. It had to be guaranteed. The alliance at first did not want to make that guarantee, and she forced them to make that guarantee. Forced them. And because Michael has basically, this might be a harsh way to put it, but Michael has basically written off this generation. And it's only his mercy that is the reason why we are going through this. Because Michael has had long talks with Emmanuel. Yes, Emmanuel is still at Salvatron, at the Capitol. He decided to stay to see this whole thing through, and to be with Michael. Actually, a lot of the Paradise personalities volunteered to stay in Michael's universe because they want to see this through. I mean, they don't think like we do, but they won't have experiences like ours either. Like, to the Paradise personalities, the thought of arguing with God, it's just such a, it would be like us thinking that we could breathe underwater without a scuba apparatus, of course. And it's just like, to them, it's just like such a foreign concept. And this whole thing has really fascinated the shit out of them. Because, like, not so much of what's going on with the human realm in time and space, but what's going on with the supernatural personalities, the higher personalities that have embraced the Luciferian philosophy. Like, they are just completely amazed that, that it's even possible for them. I mean, because for them, it's impossible. It's just an impossibility. But, so they're fascinated. They can understand humans. They understand why humans are the way that we are, because, that's how we are. And so, we get lots of help from them because we're like children. It's like you wouldn't leave a child out in the middle of the street. I mean, if any of us seen a crying child sitting on the yellow line of a street, we're probably going to go run and help, because we understand that the child does not understand what's going on in its immediate environment. And it's probably terrified as fuck. Well, that's how the Paradise personalities see us. We are infant souls that are terrified. And so they want to help us through it.
And to speak to, I guess, part of what you were saying, they were fascinated by Lucifer and those orders of beings that rebelled. Basically the orders of personality that are incapable of rebellion are observing with interest the the various orders of personality that are capable of rebellion, and they're seeing what they're just observing them. I guess it's something they don't see very often.
No, it's like, I mean, it's like going to the South Pole and watching penguins. I mean, yeah, it's a shitty place on the planet, but their behavior is fascinating as fuck. I mean, like, they mate for life. They take turns taking care of the egg, and they march across glaciers. They will weather the storms. It's just like these little animals, and they only stand like 24 inches tall. And you're just like, you watch a video of this shit on TV, and you're just like, they're walking across ice. It's like, guys, you can live anywhere in the world. You don't have to live there. If you just went 50 kilometers north, it's 10 times better. But they insist on going to this place.
You actually see penguins on the beaches in southern, it's either South America or I don't think Africa, but they do visit other continents. They come up on the beach and you see penguins on the beach.
I seen penguins when I was in Lima, Peru.
Okay. They came up that far.
They came up that far.
Okay.
You could see them and I was in northern Peru. Actually, Paracas area. That's where all the elongated skulls are found, and tons of interesting archaeology. All tie in, which all, again, it all ties back into the Urantia book. It's like, when you like take everything that you learn about all this ancient archaeology stuff and you read the Urantia book, you're like, whoa, that's who those people were. What the fuck? It explains everything. It explains why things and how things degraded and why. And you begin to see the whole thing. And because of that, like the Urantia book, that has given like me so many points of reference that when I see these visions get laid out before me, it's like, I know what that is now. Whereas before it was just confusing. It's like looking at an old piece of farm equipment from 100 years ago and guessing how it operated. Yeah. Because, and not realizing that half the fucking pieces are missing. So you don't even get the whole picture anyways. And sometimes even if you have the whole thing, you might not figure it out.
Thank goodness for the internet. I got a copy of the original owner's manual for my horse-drawn mower from, I don't know, 1920s.
No shit.
Yeah, there's a place that reprints them, and that gave me a lot of, I was using gear oil in the gearbox, and it says, no, use 20 weight oil. So I drained that and I put in high trans. I put in hydraulic fluid. So it's like, okay, now I got to rebuild the bearings because they're worn out. But the book gave me so much information that I didn't know.
That is just hilarious. A horse-drawn lawnmower. God,
It's a sickle. That's what they used to make hay with. 5-foot cutter bar. 2-foot cutter bar was the small one. 5 foot was the medium. They had one that was 6 or 7. 7-foot cutter bar was huge back in the day. It was like these 45 and 50-foot combine headers they got now.
Man, if our evolution wasn't interrupted, we would have a beautiful record stretching back 500,000 years, telling us everything of our progression up through time. You know where we would be right now at 500,000 years? We would be out in our own solar system, exploring it, colonizing all around all the planets. We would be on Jupiter's moons by now, exploring it. Mars would be an overnight trip by now. I mean, you'd be flying to Mars for a weekend. The moon wouldn't even exist because it wasn't necessary. Mars is what influenced our tides with Tiamat. And it's like, I mean, so much has been lost in this war. Like when people begin to understand, and this is going to be in the future, once we start on the path of light and life, and we will make it out into the solar system, but it's going to be done in a very different way, in a novel way. This is the other thing, unexpected. Michael loves surprises. He loves surprises. And the direction that we have gone is completely unexpected. It really is. It's just, even Michael was like, well, fuck me. Look at what they did. And once we started doing it, that is when we really started getting help. You think the internet was an accident? The internet happened because archangels got involved and midway creatures got involved, because the archangels that came back, a lot of them, this was their home. You see, when you understand that, okay, when higher personalities come to a planet, if that planet is not their home, it's very hands-off for them. They're just hanging out with humans, but they ain't allowed to do shit. Well, they're allowed to do some, but they're not allowed to, like, interrupt a destiny. Let's put it that way. But archangels that are native to our planet, they're just like you and I in their choices. They can make choices because they have accepted the consequences of being intimately connected to our karma. So because of that, they can influence us. And they did it through World War II. Some in World War I, but they were limited in World War I. But then in World War II, a lot of the Aboriginal archangels came back to Earth, and they were not limited. So there was a huge influence. If it wasn't for the archangels, we would have fucking annihilated each other in World War II. Or the Nazis would have won. I mean, there was just like, so they stepped in. And since World War II, I see their hand in a lot of stuff in the 20th century coming up through and getting things organized, because they knew when the epoch is. They didn't know what Michael's plan was, but they were like, well, there's an epoch coming. It's 2,000 years. If Michael's going to do something, Michael's going to do something in and around this time. Nobody knows the date and time. Hell, none of them knew the Son of Man was on the planet until she revealed herself. None of them knew. I mean, she grew up without any angelic influence. She had the standard cherubim, and she had the standard Sephirim,
Seraphim.
seraphim, just like the rest of us. No different than the rest of us. That's all they got. Not like when the Son of Man was here the first time, because there was no announcement this time. And besides that, the Cabal suspected that the Son of Man would reincarnate because before they came from their other dimension, they knew all about Michael's promise to come back. And they understood it more than we do. And so they were happy to come to this planet, because if they could, I mean, what a beautiful middle finger in your face, fucking shit, bag of burning dog shit on the doorstep than these evil fuckers could think of than to fuck with the planet that Michael was incarnated on. Put yourself in their shoes. You're an evil fucker. You hate God. What would you do?
Hey, he just put a target on his back.
Basically, when Michael
Yeah.
when Michael incarnated on this planet, you are absolutely right. I had this thought before. This is not a new thought to me. Michael put a big, huge fucking target on this planet when he incarnated on it. And he fucking knew it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew it. But what he did was smart. A smart general. I probably would have done the same thing in his position. Let's get all you fuckers in one place at one time. And knowing the shit that Michael knows about morphogenic fields, energies of the universe that he created, by the way, you don't think that he calculated that cloud of energy that's coming towards this planet and our sun? You don't think he calculated that 50,000 years ago? And watch that fucker in time. Remember, fucking Michael is the same as the Father. He lives at both ends of time. He lives at the beginning and he lives at the end, just like the Father. He said it more than once. Yeah, you got the Father
I am
and
the Alpha
Son.
and the Omega.
Yeah, but he also said the Father and the Son are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand it. When Michael said that him and the Father are the same, he meant they are exactly the same. Everything that God is, Michael is. End of story. There's no add-ons. There's nothing taken away. He is, and he is because he chose to be like that. Because Michaels are self-actuating creatures. Oh, yes, this might be good. Okay, hard to describe, but something just went through my head and I got like a whole paragraph. So it's like this. Michael is self-actuating, so he can self-actuate as God because he is self-actuating. But at the same time, he can also maintain his own personality. So if our Creator is self-actuated and we are told that we are like the Creator, does that mean that we're self-actuating too?
Mm-hmm.
And
know ye not that ye are gods? Is that where you're going with this?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
That is what Michael meant. We are self-actuating. And this is why he was like always saying shit like, you are not the product of your circumstance. Because you can self-actuate, you move yourself away from that and you can self-actuate to be anything that you want to be. Like, seriously, if you want to be, if you want to be like somebody else, I don't know, I guess Brad Pitt, okay? You can actually do this with magic. If you pick a person that you want to be, whoever that person is, if you concentrate on them, you will branch into their morphogenic field, and you will become like them. It doesn't mean that you will know the same things as them. No. Sorry, there's no shortcuts. You're not going to be able to pull out raw information out of the morphogenic fields. What you're going to get is you're going to get muscle memory. And what I mean by, or mind muscle memory, nice term, which means that all you're going to get out of the morphogenic field is how that person has molded themselves to react to situations and their character. And so if you choose to be like somebody who has a shallow character, then you will develop that shallow character and become a selfish person. But if you choose to mold yourself after someone who has a strong character and the type of ethics that you want to personify, if you concentrate on that person for like 3 months straight, you will actually take on that person's traits and characteristics, so that whatever situation is put before you, you will react the way that they will. So if you're not if you're the type of person that doesn't stand up for human rights but want to be brave, you find that person who has, and you start mimicking them. And after 3 months, you will essentially be them. Not the same knowledge, not the same physical characteristics, although you can develop them, but you will come closer to being that person. And you can do this, and you can mismatch, and you can build. You can take different personalities and different traits from those personalities and build yourself a character and become that character. It's, it's your stage. You can be whatever the hell you want. And this is actually pretty neat. Assassins, like thousands of years ago, maybe not even that long ago, maybe a couple hundred, what assassins would do sometimes, if you had a target, okay, so there'd be a contract put out on a target, and it basically says whichever assassin can pull this off is the one that's going to get paid. So there would be assassins that knew they couldn't get near the target even if they wanted to. But so they devised this plan through magic, which is actually ingenious. And when I first heard this, I was like, oh my fuck, that would work. So what they would do is they would take a knife, okay? And usually it would be like an ornamental knife, because in the end, the idea is to get this knife close to your target. So maybe in one case, you might be thinking of an ornamental knife as a gift, and then get that within the proximity of your target, and then the knife will magically do its work through some intermediary. Maybe somebody will get pissed off and they unconsciously reach for that knife, and surprise, your target's done. Just like that. Well, that's the idea behind this spell. And they would spend months imbuing a vision of their target dying with this knife in their side. And they would do this over and every day. And then finally the knife would be ready, and it's imbued with this magic. And then that knife is given as a gift to your target. Now it's in proximity of the target. And say one night your target and their spouse, maybe even their oldest child in their 20s, they're arguing in the drawing room where the knife is on display, and the son unconsciously in his anger finds his hand around the knife, and the knife finds itself in his father's side. And there's reports that this shit actually worked. You fucking imagine? That's some crazy ass magic right there.
How'd they claim credit and get paid? That's my question.
Oh,
How'd they
simple.
prove it was they who did that?
Simple. They would just write a letter to the person that's going to pay, and you just say that in some
This is what I did if this happened.
No, don't even tell them what they did. It said
No?
in some unspecified date in the future, your target will be killed with this knife. Who the assassin is doesn't matter. I made this shit happen. Pay me when it happens. Money in the bank as far as that assassin was concerned. And that's why they did it. It was money in the bank. You'd fucking imagine if you did that to enough targets. It's the scattergun effect. You know, there's going to be a percentage that's going to pay dividends.
Okay, and on that note, we're at 8:52? 9, yeah, we're 10 minutes to 9. Oh, you want to do the was it Shuman Resonance? Let me show that. All right, I'm gonna reload this so we get the absolute up to the minute one here. They get updated every 2 hours, so I'm gonna make sure we've got the latest one. No, I don't want the app. Okay. Get on my phone. All right. This is the black part is it's right to left or left. It's backwards, but anyway, the black part is now. That's the most recent. And then so go that way. Okay, yeah. So it's basically the timeline flows like that, and then lots of decisions. There's nothing for a day or so, and then lots of decisions happening. I know I made a few fundamental decisions myself today. So there's the next one. That's always pretty active, but it's been quiet. Now it's a little more active here on all the frequencies. Look at that one. Wow. It's like the angels have been kind of running around, and then the others are just
notice that the
not
human
doing much until the last few hours. Human's the yellow one, right?
Yeah, the human one is sort of staying in sync with the angel one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
it looks like the earth is calm. The animal and plant kingdom seems to be just scooting along just fine. But of course, it's noticed that the plant and the animal one has spiked also within the last couple of days. Huge forest fires have been happening, in Canada and the United States. So that probably is stress. Oh man, I was talking to a buddy. I was like, I do not understand how these people can think they can keep the pandemic narrative going, because now we have a forest fire in BC. Thousands have been evacuated. Okay. The BC mask mandate, I think, has been lifted. And now, I was like, imagine a scenario that these thousands of people are now holed up in some community center somewheres, basically camping out. They have to, no choice. They can't go back to their homes. I said, now, I was like, there's going to be a mix of fucking people in that crowd. There's going to be people that are going to be terrified. They're going to mask up. And there's going to be people that don't give a shit and are pissed off with the situation as it is, probably because they lost a job, lost an income, something happened, you know, they lost their income, they've got no more job, and now they lose their house. They're probably, yeah, just a little tweaked, you know. And you throw that in, now you throw all that in a community center. All it's going to take is one thoughtless Karen walking up to somebody who just lost their home, lost their job because of COVID, been collecting a government check that only is paying half of what he was making when he was working. Life sucks right now. And you're going to tell this guy to put on a mask? Yeah. Incidents on airplanes, violent incidences on airplanes has gone up, I don't know, like 300%. It's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2018. Like 2018, I think it was like 300 incidences were reported. And in 2021, we're already at 2,500. Like fights being started on planes.
Yeah. Serious,
like
yeah.
Serious fights. Like the latest one I seen was this old lady. She was getting fucking trampled. Like people were just going over seats. Like she didn't get out of her seat either. It's not like she was out in the aisle. No, people were climbing over seats and they were stepping on her. It's like, holy fuck. And it got triggered because the stewardess got fucking just had a shitty attitude. I mean, I remember stewardesses would always say, please, whenever they asked you to do something. But apparently this stewardess was like, do it or else. And I guess that crossed a line with Buddy. And he got up and he started swinging. And then other passengers got involved. And of course, it turned into a shit show. It's like, wow. So that's what's going on in society. So
Yeah.
That's where we're at, people.
You want to know what the latest is on the duality of the vax debate. My group that I'm in, who is very rabidly anti-vax, is showing they're showing these things that say whatever it is, the medical people are suggesting that the ICRC, or the Canadian version of the CDC,
yeah,
are saying, they're showing things that are suggesting that they're saying on several platforms, unvaccinated people are variant factories. And then of course the other thing is, well, there's, you know, the anti-vaxxers of course say that the vaccine, you know, you've heard everything they've said about the vaccine, of course.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, I don't see any way. I have to change. So we have to change. I said I made some fundamental decisions today. I was talking to this guy, and I was giving him my calm reaction to his emotional diarrhea about whatever it was. I said something, and to kind of whatever, just to say, you know, I'm not going to be a revolutionary like you want me to. You go ahead and do that. You know, go get the money away from the whatever. And I'm already doing all this stuff. And then he's just one of those, you live my way or you're a terrorist, basically. He called me a terrorist for saying things. It's like, for saying an unpopular version of some event, like it's this or that or whatever. And every time I was commenting, I was trolling somebody else who was saying something. He was saying some racist comment on something, and I just made some kind of a snide trolling comment, and he got onto it and said, "You're one to talk, you blah blah blah." And it's because I disagreed with him, basically. And I went on for 12, 6 back and forths to this thing, and tell me this, or why are you doing this, blah blah blah. You're now telling me how to respond to this guy's thing. You're telling you would he knows I voted for Trump 2 times. He's real upset about that, although he's rabid anti-Biden and anti-Trump, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Trump's the only real president we've had since Kennedy, for the record, people.
Oh,
I know,
Jesus. And he's back in he's back in public.
Was doing my Zen, but I was doing it out of ego.
Ah, yeah.
And I said, okay, or to myself, I said, okay, if I really care about this guy and about society and everything, I may be doing my Zen and doing my, proving how calm I can be, but I'm doing it at his expense, because I could keep doing this until he tore himself apart in a fit of rage by just reacting calmly to him. But I think I've made the point. Everybody else can read the conversation and choose who's, what's right in this conversation. I just realized I am inducing him to feed the demons with his, whatever that stuff is they feed off. So I'm like, okay, I might, and I'm not gonna sway him anyway. I'm just making it worse for him. So I want him to do, and he's got a lot of stuff that we both agree on very much, that is sort of grassroots stuff, that's freedom type things. We're just he's locked into this thing. You can't get beyond it at this point. So if I have his best interests at heart, I'm going to back the heck off. I'm still going to comment on other things and stuff, and then if he interacts with me again, I'll decide what I want to do. But in this interaction, okay, we're done. I'm not gonna, because I'm making him feed the demons.
Yeah. I'm
screwing up his emotional state. And I've told myself that I'm not doing it, or I've told myself that I'm doing it to give his thought adjuster ammunition, but I thought, he's nowhere near the thought adjuster now. I mean, I suppose the thought adjuster could receive anything that he reads. I was basically Trojan horsing his thought adjuster by making him read this stuff. So, who's the bad guy here? Maybe I am.
It's a mixed bag.
I know I'm not so terribly better than he is than I was thinking, maybe. So I'm not so wonderful, or as wonderful as I thought.
No, the thing is that we get addicted to the loosh, is what it is. And the loosh comes through on the keyboard, people. Like, we've talked about this before, the difference between digital and celluloid movie. Huge difference.
So I was feeding off him too by inducing these responses.
Oh yeah, you were like, you had a gourmet meal, essentially. And it's it's
like the rat. You push the button and the food appears, and it's whatever. So
I mean, we are a fucked up species. I mean, really, we are. I mean, we're all part vampire. We really are. I mean, we did not get enough of the Adamic uplifting to not be. But the Archangel book assures us that we got enough, so we're not completely lost. But it's a struggle it's more of a struggle because we're also dealing with, like, we're monkeys with superpowers is where we are at on the evolutionary fucking line. Monkeys with superpowers. And one of them is that we can suck energy from each other. And I mean, technically that is what we are designed for. But in a properly evolved society, we would understand that there's always a yin and there's a yang. The Indian culture kind of understood it. They used astrology to bring couples together for marriage. Was it planned marriages? And they would Yeah, they would let the
They'd
kids.
have a matchmakers and everything. It was a whole art.
Oh, you're right. It was. I mean, families would go and they would like a good matchmaker who has a really good, solid record for like hooking up couples. They can charge a lot of money because they have the track record. It's like 100% of the time, the couples that I have brought together through arranged marriages have worked splendidly. You can go and talk to these people. You can visit these people. He gives out their address. And then they interact with these families. Families would tell them straight up. It's like, are you kidding? Bringing us together was the best thing that ever happened in our life because they have energies that complement each other. I mean, the husband might be super intelligent, but has very low motivation. The wife could be like tons of motivation, but has no direction on what to do with anything. He brings the direction. She brings the excitement and the energy. So he can give her direction. She lifts him up with her energy. Boom. They end up making a beautiful life together and wonderful children. That is how society is supposed to evolve. And yeah, and we would have learned this over the millennia, but they just kept on shortcutting us because in their minds, in the fallen, in their minds, it was about the technology. If we give them this technology, they can't help but learn. But they didn't understand that monkeys with superpowers are just going to go be monkeys. And that's what our ancestors did. They just wanted to go and do shit. There was no instilled work ethic at that time because it wasn't programmed into the morphogenic fields at that time. Most of them, I mean, people just wanted to just relax in the jungle and just eat fruit off the trees like monkeys, like animals. The technology, oh, that just made shit much easier. There's no need to learn. All I need to do is just know how to use the technology. It'll be fine. I don't need to know how it works. We see that attitude today with the cell phones, with all the technology around us. I don't need to know how it works. Yeah, but you should at least understand how it works. You know, have a basic understanding. There's people using
my Achilles heel is programming. I'll own to being ambivalent or even slightly hostile to learning programming because it was partly because it was kind of challenging in school. I was learning basic and stuff, and I was, with the proper instruction and things and a reason to do it, I would have been all right. I got the basics of how a program works, why it does what it does, why a computer does what it does. I don't know exactly how the circuits in my iPad work, but I assume they're similar to the circuits in the computers that I used when I was a kid. I know what's inside the machine and what it's got a processor, it's got a memory core, it's got a battery, it's got a screen. And I sort of know how the touch screen works. It reacts to the heat or the energy in my finger and that, but I couldn't program. I couldn't write, Mac OS or anything like that.
no.
But
I mean,
so yeah, I don't know if that's rebuild a John Deere D as a magneto.
I mean, when it comes to like the technology, we really only have a
some
superficial.
lag here. Okay, go ahead.
I said, when it comes to like technology, we really have only a superficial understanding of it. I like to think I understand more than the average person, but I've done things with computers. I've tore them apart. I've programmed them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I could rebuild a truck engine a lot easier than I would be able to rebuild a computer. And
I can.
But that's where society is, though. If evolution had gone properly, people would have learned the value of working hard, getting and reward, leisure. We would have learned how to balance all of this stuff. And working hard, would, because we would have learned that, if you're going to work at something, it might as well be something that you like. We would have learned that eons ago, centuries ago, easily. And, it's such a simple thing to understand. And the way schools are today, it's just like they think everybody is the same, and they're not. I mean, you got people that are good in, they're good with math. They might be good with writing and letters. And then you got good people that are good with machinery. Some are good at fixing it. Others are good at operating it. So it's like they throw everybody in the same room and they expect the same results from everybody. Like we're all just punched out by cookie cutters. And that would have been corrected a long, long time ago. And so, as a society, we are nowhere near an enlightened society at all. I think we're getting there, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
we're getting there. We're and it's how those curves go and technology development, things like that. We're on the fast end of the curve now. We have to decide each day that we're going to. I think it comes down to an individual decision, even with all the over control and stuff, and Michael cleaning house and things. In the end, we have to decide that we're going to engage.
Yes,
and if we choose to, we can each put ourselves on the path to light and life, but we have to make that decision.
And this has actually been the perfect time for them, because it becomes exponentially easy to program morphogenic fields leading up to an epoch. This is why Michael showed up 2,000 years ago. Leading up to an epoch, he was able to affect the morphogenic field in a substantial way. Why do you think Christianity?
Oh, is there a logarithmic scale? Is there a logarithmic scale involved in this?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Like it becomes easier. Yeah, it's like how logarithmic scale. It's like every dot is not one. It's 1, 10. Yeah, it's 1, 10, 100, whatever. It's
It is
a logarithmic scale. If you know what the logarithmic scale is, I've used them to plot stuff on chart, and you get this curve, except it's a foreshortened version of the thing they showed us for how they claim the Earth's population went. For like 2,000 years, it went from 50,000 people to 1 million people, and then in like much less time, it went from 1 million people to 8 billion or whatever it is they say. But the logarithmic scale compacts that, so you don't have to draw it out on a mile-long piece of paper.
Yeah, well, it's also scalar as well.
Okay.
So, and so it does become exponential, because every new habit is built on the old habit.
Right.
Just like creation. Creation is built upon creation, upon creation. This is how morphogenic fields are built. This is like, they just towers of information.
Well, I'll give you a super easy though crude example. You set fire to a piece of paper, and you plot. If you were to plot the amount of paper involved over time, it would be that. Yeah. Is that kind of the thing we're looking at here? It's later on, just before the paper is completely consumed, it's 50 or 75% of the paper was consumed in the same amount of time as the previous 25%, or even more than that.
Yeah, yeah, because the flame reaches its apex and
That's a
then it
crude
just
example, but yeah,
swallows
it's
the rest of it. So that's what
everything
epochs
builds upon
are.
everything else, and they snowball. It snowballs, Crow. It
Mhm,
snowballs.
mhm. And that's what the 20th century has
Sorry,
been all
it
about.
snowballs.
And it does.
It
And they thought
snowballs.
that they thought that they could manipulate the field with 9/11, but that whole thing backfired on them.
Mhm.
And I'm surprised they didn't see it coming.
I
What
became
the
I became more aware. I became more devoted to situational awareness, more devoted to figuring out, okay, what the fleet is actually true, who's saying what are they who's full of crap and who's not.
because
I
what
became more situational. And one more thing, when before 9/11, leading up to it, and I could see this, I was coasting. 9/11 was a slap in the face. It's like, pay attention.
yeah.
And then a while after that, I coasted again, and my cat died suddenly and mysteriously. I think he choked on a cricket, or I don't know what, but he just died one morning. The floor of my parents' bedroom. Took,
Jeez.
just went from walking around. He went from running around to just dead. And I don't know what. So I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe someone's trying to tell me something.
Pay
Maybe I need
attention.
to pay attention to what, not take stuff for granted.
Yeah.
Not take stuff for granted. Pay attention.
Yeah.
So
See,
so yeah,
because
that's
you know how
go.
the alliance, counteracted their ritual with that
Mm.
with the towers. They couldn't stop them, but they did a wonderful job of counteracting it, and it's the reason why 9/11 is the event that it is now. And they didn't even. I don't even think they might be. They might have figured it out later, but by that time it was already too late. What the alliance did is they evoked World War II. What did they say about 9/11?
An attack on American soil.
It was the second what?
The second what?
The second Pearl Harbor.
Oh yes,
What do
the
you
second Pearl
think?
Harbor.
What do
The
you think
second.
that induced in the morphogenic field? You know what that induced in the morphogenic field? That induced everything that was put in the morphogenic field during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought they understood World War II. World War II was about heroism. The shit people did. Because they were looking at the superficial meaning of World War II. There were millions and hundreds of millions of people, ordinary people, workers on the ground. They were pumping information into the morphogenic field. What the leadership was doing meant nothing in the morphogenic field compared to what this workforce was pumping in. Patriotism, love for their fellow human being, world peace. Oh God, I want my loved ones to come home. Thoughts of loved ones, being safe.
Mm-hmm.
All of that in the morphogenic field. And then the alliance brought it out again. What did that do? Our airports all over the world, they opened their doors for American airplanes to land because they couldn't land on American soil because America was in a state of emergency. Newfoundland, dozens of planes in Newfoundland. Planes even landed in like foreign countries where they probably shouldn't have landed, and the people were welcoming.
Mm.
They were like, no, let us help you. That's a horrible thing that has happened. Whoever did that, and this was supposed to garner sympathy. But the morphogenic fields are more powerful than people's emotions in the moment. That's how powerful morphogenic fields are. And if they were properly programmed, none of this would be going on because we would understand this. But that was another force that they did not understand. All of this stuff, I didn't care as much about what was going on in New York during 9/11. What I cared about is the same thing that I always care about. I care about what's going on the ground with the people, the boots on the ground, the real people.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? How are they reacting to all of this? They reacted with patriotism. Some reacted with anger, righteous anger at that, and their anger was directed towards bin Laden. And that was part of the narrative, of course. That gave people with an anger a valve to channel it through. Other people had feelings of wanting to reconcile all of this. It's like, why did you do that? It's like, are we really that fucking bad that it drove you to do that? It made people start questioning American foreign policy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, and well, you can't be doing that. Obama did a good job of squashing that little bug, but then Trump brought it back and really fucked things up. Really fucked things up.
Okay, I'm gonna end with a couple of things. What you've been talking about for the last Swan was the alliances, back doors. The movies that I like best are when the hero has a back door that the villains don't know about. He lets them think they've won, and then to make the movie dramatic, the audience thinks the villain may have won, but they figure the hero has something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
And so it's that, like, he's got this. The villain breaks into a castle that the hero designed himself, and thinks he has the hero trapped in this castle, or thinks he has the hero banished and he's got control. Well, no, he's got this remote control. He's got an insider there. Usually one of the villain's second most trusted guy or something.
I guess that's
somehow convinced him to go to his side because he saved his daughter's life or whatever. You remember Zootopia, right? You saw that. Mr. Big was going to ice both Nick and Judy, but then his daughter came in and said, that police officer saved my life yesterday.
It's like, what do you do with that?
Both his children.
It's like,
so
what do you do with
that? They're in with this mob boss. Nick's all forgiven, and Judy's a part of the family.
Oh man, I guess that's why I like Doctor Who. That's like, because it's like he's going to come up with something. Yeah.
We'll have to, when we get together again, I want you to show me some episodes of Doctor Who, because I have not seen a complete episode of Doctor Who. I know a little bit about the universe, the TARDIS, and the Daleks or whatever, but I have no little context for any of it.
Yeah, it would have to be like one of the movies, because the writers on the new episodes of Doctor Who, man, they are geniuses on a level like, wow. They create arcs in their stories multiple episodes long. Mm-hmm. They created an arc with the 11th Doctor, and it spanned 3 or 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was one huge arc, and at the end, it all related back to all the past. You're just like, are you fucking kidding? Wow! And you just that is a level of writing that's genius.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. And yeah, do you have something to finish with?
I don't know. Let's see. Be good to each other. Call your moms. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been
Seek the
Krow.
truth and stop vamping on your friends. And this has been Peter. And this has been P&K Q&A for July 3rd. And happy July 4th, anyone who's watching from America. So peace out.
Peace out.